Okay, so, wow. This time around, you've given us some seriously intense material to dig into.
Yeah, I mean...
We're talking about what happens before we're reborn.
Right.
Which is like, whoa, hold on a minute.
Like a whole new level.
It's this idea that's been whispered about forever.
Mm-hmm.
But one of your sources says it's not just some old story.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's about forbidden knowledge.
Right.
Like stuff that's been hidden on purpose because of how powerful it is.
Exactly. And the first thing that really jumps out at me is his claim that there's like this ancient wisdom, from texts like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and that really out there Book of Enoch. And they all seem to point toward the same thing.
Oh, really?
Like a specific sequence of events that happen when we die.
Interesting.
And this YouTube transcript you shared, it suggests that this was like a secret curriculum.
Wow.
Only a select few knew about it and knew how to use it to navigate the afterlife.
So it's like a roadmap or something.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And the video goes on to talk about 3 possible destinations.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
After we die, you can ascend, you can reincarnate.
Right.
Or you could just disappear into nothingness.
That's the scary one, right?
I know. And here's where it gets really intense.
Okay.
It basically says the decisions we're making right now, the stuff we care about the most in this life, all of that is actively steering us toward one of those outcomes.
It's not like Judgment Day waiting for us later.
Right.
It's like we're building our own path right now.
That's kind of a heavy thought.
It is definitely something to think about.
And it's not a completely foreign concept.
Sure.
If you think about like Eastern philosophy, the idea of karma, the whole cause and effect thing.
Yeah, but what makes this video so different?
What's that?
Is this emphasis on a step-by-step process.
Oh, I see.
Like a blueprint you can understand and maybe even influence.
So not just fate, but choices.
Right, exactly.
Then the whole thing takes this crazy turn.
Okay.
Into this real-life mystery.
Oh, yeah.
This story about Dr. James Peterson at Stanford back in 1963.
What happened?
He supposedly discovered that brain activity continues after clinical death.
Whoa, that's huge.
And not just random stuff, but organized signals.
What do you mean?
Like it looked like there was still conscious thought happening.
Even though the person was clinically dead?
That's what they're claiming.
That completely changes how we think about death.
It does, and it raises so many questions.
I can only imagine.
Like, what does it even mean to be dead?
Right, like if our brains are still working.
Exactly.
What does that say about our consciousness?
It's almost like the definition of death isn't as clear-cut as we thought.
And there's some research to back this up, too.
Really?
Yeah, some studies have found these bursts of gamma wave activity.
What are those?
They're brain waves that are linked to higher level thinking.
Okay.
And they're showing up right after the heart stops.
So like right when someone dies?
Yeah.
That's so trippy.
It really is.
But the story gets even wilder.
Oh, no. What? No.
They claim that federal agents raided his lab.
Seriously?
Confiscated all his research. Peterson vanished.
Vanished. Like disappeared.
Poof, gone, no trace.
What?
And his work was wiped from all the records.
That's like straight out of a movie.
I know.
That's insane.
Except apparently there was this one page that survived.
Oh, really?
Maria Chen somehow managed to keep it safe.
Maria Chen.
Yeah, she's like a key figure in all this.
So what was on this page?
A graph of brain patterns.
Okay.
And 7 words written in Peterson's handwriting.
7 words. What were they?
Ascend, reincarnate, embrace, transcend, liberate, eternal consciousness.
Wow.
I know, right?
Just 7 words.
7 words that could change everything.
And of course, people love a good secret.
Oh, absolutely.
So this idea that there's this groundbreaking discovery that's being hidden from us, it just feeds into that human fascination with the unknown.
Totally. And the video even claims that research is still going on in secret.
Like right now.
Yeah, that's what they're saying.
To prove Peterson's findings.
Yep, but those findings are being suppressed.
By who?
Shadowy forces.
Oh, come on. Like some kind of conspiracy.
Well, that's the claim.
Why would they do that?
Because this knowledge would completely rock our life.
How so?
It would change everything we think we know about life, death, the soul reality.
You're talking about a massive shift in perspective.
Right.
Like imagine if we really knew for sure that consciousness continues after death.
Yeah.
That would change our religious beliefs, our understanding of who we are, even how we approach end-of-life care.
It would be a total upheaval.
And that kind of change can be scary for a lot of people.
Especially for those in power.
Exactly, those who benefit from the status quo.
So the video argues that suppression is a way to maintain control.
Through fear of the unknown.
Exactly.
It's a classic power move.
Now let's look at the historical examples the video gives for this suppression of afterlife knowledge.
Okay.
It starts way back with ancient Egyptian priests.
Okay.
They supposedly kept all their teachings secret.
In like hidden temple chambers.
Yep. And their sacred texts were all coded.
So only the elite could understand them.
Only the priests and the pharaohs.
That makes sense if you think about it.
Why?
Controlling knowledge, especially spiritual knowledge, has always been a way to hold on to power.
Makes you wonder what secrets they're regarding.
Doesn't it?
Then there's the image of Tibetan monks in remote monasteries passing down their teachings in secret.
Right, their texts locked away in those mountain temples.
Very mysterious.
And very much in line with Tibetan Buddhism.
Really?
Yeah, they have a strong tradition of oral transmission.
What's that?
Where knowledge is passed down from teacher to student directly.
Interesting.
And they're very protective of their sacred texts.
So it's not necessarily about keeping secrets from everyone?
No, it's more about preserving the teachings within a specific lineage.
Like a sacred trust.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the video moves on to medieval Europe and the Catholic Church.
A very different time.
It talks about the banning of books.
Oh, yeah.
The persecution of anyone who had different beliefs about the afterlife.
Right. The church was very strict about dogma.
And they suppressed individual spiritual experiences.
It was all about maintaining control.
Right.
Through religious authority.
Didn't want anyone questioning their teachings.
And the consequences for challenging the church were severe.
So it was a very effective way to stifle any alternative views on death and the afterlife.
Absolutely.
And coming closer to our own time, the video brings up the tragic loss of knowledge among Native American tribes.
Oh, yeah.
About death and dying.
Due to European settlers suppressing their traditional practices.
It's a heartbreaking example of how colonization destroyed so much.
Not just land and resources, but entire cultures and their wisdom.
And finally, the video talks about modern medicine.
Okay.
Where near-death experiences are often dismissed as hallucinations.
It's hard to study those scientifically.
I can imagine.
Because they're so subjective.
And scientists who try to study consciousness beyond the physical brain, they face funding challenges and all kinds of criticism.
That makes sense, though.
How so?
Science is all about what you can prove and measure.
Right.
So when you start talking about consciousness as something separate to the brain, it gets really tricky.
And it doesn't fit neatly into the current scientific paradigm.
Exactly.
So the video argues that there are all these reasons why this knowledge is being suppressed.
What are they?
It's about control through fear of death.
Right.
Financial interests like the funeral industry and healthcare. Religious organizations protecting their doctrines, and even a desire to avoid upsetting people with uncomfortable truths.
So it's a complex web of motivations.
Absolutely.
Some intentional, some maybe not so much.
But the video also suggests that the truth keeps coming out anyway.
In what way?
Through ancient cave paintings,
Interesting.
folk stories that have been passed down for generations,
Right.
the growing number of near-death experience accounts, and even some hints from modern physics.
It's like this ancient wisdom keeps popping up.
Yeah, like it refuses to be silenced.
And with more and more people sharing their experiences.
Especially online.
That's right.
It's getting harder to ignore.
And it creates this really interesting situation.
How so?
Where these different ways of knowing,
like ancient wisdom and modern science,
are starting to come together.
Now let's talk about the first major discovery the video presents.
Okay.
The clear light that appears right after death.
That's a common theme in near-death experiences.
People describe it as a gateway to liberation.
Like a path to something greater.
And the video claims that our fear,
which is supposed to protect us, might actually be blinding us to this opportunity at the moment of death.
So it's a call to cultivate inner stillness now.
So we're ready when the time comes.
The clear light is a big deal in Tibetan Buddhism.
Right, in the Bardathodal, the Tibetan Book of the Dead.
It's described as the fundamental luminosity of reality.
That manifests when we die.
And some researchers think the bright light in near-death experiences might be connected to this ancient concept.
It's an interesting connection.
But the video claims that most people miss this opportunity.
Why is that?
Because they don't know about it.
Oh, I see.
And they're overwhelmed by fire.
That makes sense.
The Tibetan Book of the Dead describes this light as brighter than 1,000 suns.
Wow.
But not harmful.
Okay.
It's pure awareness.
And the key is to merge with it.
That's how you achieve full spiritual awakening.
That's what they say.
So the video is saying that how we react in that moment,
when we see the clear light,
is crucial.
Yeah, it determines what happens next.
Fear and confusion.
They make us cling to our old patterns and beliefs.
Which actually blocks the experience.
So the advice is to relax.
Let go of control.
And just be present.
Easier said than done.
Oh, definitely.
Especially when you're facing death.
Right, but that's why the preparation is so important.
That's what all those ancient traditions emphasize.
You need to cultivate that inner peace beforehand.
So you can navigate that moment of transition with more awareness.
Exactly.
And it's interesting how this ancient description
of the clear light
lines up with what people say in modern near-death experiences.
It's pretty remarkable.
Moving through a tunnel toward a bright light.
Feelings of peace and acceptance.
Encounters with deceased loved ones.
And that sense of the experience being indescribable.
Like words can't capture it.
And the Egyptian Book of the Dead talks about the light of Osiris.
And other cultures have similar stories, too.
It's like this universal archetype.
So this first stage,
the clear light,
that's supposed to be the easiest.
But it's also the one that's most often missed.
Because people aren't prepared.
They don't know what to expect.
And their fear takes over?
The ancient texts all say the same thing.
What's that?
Don't grasp at the light.
Okay.
Don't run away from it.
Got it.
Just rest in that state of pure awareness.
Just be... The video describes it as feeling like you're everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
That's trippy.
Losing all your normal points of reference.
Just pure awareness without any divisions.
And they even connect this to quantum physics.
Oh, wow. How so?
The idea that everything is interconnected energy and information.
That's a pretty deep concept.
It is, and the video suggests that our normal mind,
with its need to label everything,
blocks this experience.
So we need to let go of that need to understand.
And just surrender to the experience.
Because if we can stay with the light,
we can move beyond the limitations of our body and mind.
And potentially end the cycle of birth, death, and suffering.
It's the ultimate goal in many spiritual traditions.
Right.
But for most people, the light fades.
As their old habits come back.
It's like waking up from a dream.
But even a glimpse of that clear light
can change your whole understanding of yourself.
That's powerful.
And the video reminds us that this light is always present.
In a way.
Like in deep sleep.
Or the space between thoughts.
But we usually don't notice it.
We're too caught up in our daily lives.
Then we move on to the second stage.
The trials of judgment.
Where we supposedly face a review of our actions.
All of them.
Every thought, every choice we made during our lives.
That sounds intense.
It is, but it's not about punishment.
Oh, good.
It's about learning and growth.
So like a reflection.
Yeah, and not just seeing what we did, but feeling the impact it had on others. Like actually experiencing the consequences of our actions.
That would be intense.
And the video stresses that it's often the small, everyday choices.
Like what?
Acts of kindness, moments of genuine listening.
Okay.
Patience, those things.
The little things we often overlook.
Exactly. Those turn out to be the most significant. Because our actions, even the tiny ones, create ripples.
With consequences we can't even imagine.
So it's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah, kind of like that.
And these trials also reveal our hidden patterns.
Like what do you mean?
The ways we behave without even realizing it.
Oh, interesting.
Like maybe we push people away unconsciously.
Or we keep avoiding our dreams.
Things like that.
That's fascinating.
It's like getting a deep dive into our own subconscious.
And this could be incredibly valuable for the soul's journey.
Because it helps us understand ourselves better.
And make different choices in the future.
The video also says that even difficult life experiences,
my hardships,
can be seen in a new light during this stage.
How so?
We can start to see the hidden benefits and lessons.
The things we missed while we were going through them.
Exactly.
It's like gaining a new perspective
right.
on the events of our lives.
And it helps us make sense of our past.
It's like a cosmic therapy session.
I love that.
And it helps us move forward with more wisdom.
Souls might feel overwhelmed at first.
Understandably.
With all this information.
A lot to process.
But they only receive what they can handle.
That's good.
And the video really emphasizes that every life has an impact.
Even the short ones.
Even the ones that seem ordinary.
Every life matters.
It all contributes to the tapestry of existence.
And there are these unseen connections between lives.
What do you mean?
Like maybe your smile gave someone hope.
Wow.
And that ripple effect went on and on.
We're all so interconnected.
More than we realize.
And this stage, the trials of judgment.
It's supposed to foster that deep appreciation for interconnectedness.
The insights we gain during this review.
They influence our choices in future lives.
Like we learn from our past mistakes.
And make better choices next time around.
The duration of this stage varies for each soul.
Some need more time to process.
Others less.
But by the end,
there's this profound understanding of oneself.
And one's place in the universe.
It's preparation for the next stage.
The next gate.
The third gate involves encountering the Watchers.
Who are the Watchers?
They're not judges.
Okay.
They're more like cosmic record keepers.
Interesting.
They track and record every single thing we do.
Every action, every thought, every choice.
Everything.
Like a cosmic surveillance system.
Well, kind of, but it's not sinister.
It's just about observation.
And they observe everything.
Big and small.
The monumental events and the tiniest acts of kindness.
Nothing escapes their notice.
And their records show the ripple effects of our actions.
Like how one choice leads to another.
And how those chains of events unfold.
It's a fascinating concept.
The video gives this example of buying food for someone who's hungry.
Okay.
The Watchers don't just see that act of charity.
Right.
They see how it impacts that person.
Maybe help them get back on their feet.
And then that person goes on to do something good for someone else.
And so?
It's a chain reaction of kindness.
That's beautiful.
And their recording system is beyond our understanding.
Of time and space.
They can track billions of lives simultaneously.
Wow.
And see connections that we miss.
That's mind-boggling.
The key insight here is that no action is isolated.
Everything we do is connected to everything else.
It's all part of a larger web.
The cosmic web.
And they can even see potential timelines.
What do you mean?
The paths we could have taken.
Oh, wow.
The choices we almost made.
Like sliding doors.
Yeah. And when we pass through this third gate,
we get to see these records.
Of our own lives.
Not just how we remember them.
But how they truly were.
With all the connections and consequences.
It's like watching a movie of your life.
Except it's not just entertainment.
It's a profound learning experience.
And I imagine it could be pretty confronting.
Especially if we made a lot of mistakes.
But the video clarifies that it's not about judgment.
Right. It's about understanding.
Learning from our past.
Seeing how our choices played out.
Both the good and the bad.
Like that example they give.
The one about the smile.
Yeah.
Just a simple smile.
That prevented someone from giving up hope.
So small, but so significant.
It's all about interconnectedness.
And how every action matters.
And this knowledge, the video argues,
should lead us to make more mindful choices.
Not out of fear.
But out of understanding.
Because we see how our choices impact the world.
And how they ripple out beyond our own lives.
Every life, every action contributes to the tapestry of human experience.
That's a beautiful thought.
Facing these records, the Watcher's record,
it's the final lesson
about the true significance of our lives.
And it prepares us for what comes next.
And that brings us to Dr. Peterson's 7 words.
Ascend, reincarnate, embrace, transcend, liberate, eternal consciousness.
These 7 words, according to the video,
are like a blueprint for the afterlife.
They offer insights into what awaits us.
And maybe even how we can influence our journey.
If these words really came from a scientist studying consciousness and death,
they could represent key stages.
Or pathways or fundamental aspects of the soul's journey.
And they seem to combine various spiritual and philosophical concepts.
Let's break them down.
Okay.
Ascend.
Rising above the physical realm.
Breaking free from our earthly attachments.
Reaching a higher state of being.
Connecting with a universal consciousness.
It's the classic spiritual quest.
Reincarnate.
The cycle of rebirth.
Endless chances to learn and grow.
Each life, another chapter in the soul's journey.
A central idea in many Eastern traditions.
Embrace.
Accepting the transition from life to what comes next.
Without fear.
Welcoming the unknown.
Trusting in the natural order of change.
Allowing the soul to move forward unburdened.
It's about letting go.
Surrendering to the process.
Transcend.
Going beyond our limits.
Surpassing physical and mental boundaries.
Reaching pure consciousness.
True freedom.
Breaking free from the cycle of reincarnation.
Rising to eternal awareness.
It's the ultimate goal for many.
Liberate.
Releasing all attachments and burdens.
Dramas, regrets, fear.
Allowing the soul to exist in peace.
Complete autonomy.
The ultimate freedom.
Eternal.
The timeless nature of the soul.
Consciousness unbound by time or space.
Perpetually continuing its journey.
An endless and evolving experience.
And finally, consciousness.
The fundamental essence.
That persists beyond death.
The driving force behind everything.
Understanding it as eternal and unbounded.
Changes how we see life and death.
It's our true nature.
Not our physical form.
The video argues that this knowledge has been suppressed.
To control us.
To keep us in fear and ignorance.
And that these 7 words.
They empower us.
They challenge the established power structures.
They disrupt the idea of death as the end.
They offer a new understanding.
Of who we are and what's possible.
It's a radical shift in perspective.
And it gives us the power to confront our fears.
To understand our true nature.
And make choices that align with our eternal journey.
And the video suggests that we can meditate on these words.
Integrate them into our life. To align with the natural flow of existence.
To prepare for death.
And to enrich our lives right now.
With purpose, connection, peace.
The revelation of these words.
It's the end of secrecy.
And the beginning of a new understanding.
It's an invitation to reclaim our power.
To transcend our limitations.
To embrace our eternal consciousness.
Now let's see how the video tries to connect all this with modern science.
Okay.
It starts by talking about near-death experiences.
Which are becoming more and more common.
And the striking similarities in the report.
Across different cultures.
People talk about leaving their body.
Moving through darkness.
Encountering a bright light.
And meeting deceased loved ones.
It's a pretty consistent pattern.
It does suggest that there's something more going on
than just random brain activity.
And the video mentions some brain research
that shows surges of electrical activity after clinical death.
Some people think this could be connected to the heightened awareness reported in NDEs.
But it's still an area of debate.
And the video acknowledges that consciousness studies are still in their early stages.
We have a lot more questions than answers.
And it brings in quantum physics,
which suggests that consciousness might not be limited to the brain.
Right, like the analogy of a TV signal.
Existing separately from the TV set.
It's a really interesting possibility.
It challenges our usual way of thinking about consciousness.
The video also talks about out-of-body experiences,
where people accurately describe things they couldn't have seen
while they were supposedly clinically dead.
Those are some of the most compelling anecdotal accounts.
Because they suggest that consciousness can operate independently of the body.
But they're also difficult to prove scientifically.
And then there's the evolving medical understanding of death.
As a process rather than a single moment.
Right.
With cells and genes still active for a while after vital signs cease.
It makes you question what it really means to be dead.
And the video brings up the research of Dr. Ian Stevenson,
who studied children who claimed to remember past lives.
And some of those cases were pretty convincing.
With verified details and everything.
It suggests that reincarnation might not be as far-fetched as some people think.
And brain scans during deep meditation
have shown some similarities to near-death experiences.
Like reduced self-awareness and increased activity in other areas.
Which suggests that these altered states of consciousness might have a neurological basis.
And some hospitals have even tried to test out-of-body experiences.
Using hidden objects.
To see if people can really perceive things from outside their bodies.
It's an interesting approach.
But the results have been mixed.
And then there's the phenomenon of terminal lucidity,
where people with severe dementia suddenly become clear and coherent right before death.
It's a real mystery.
It challenges our understanding of how the brain works.
And shared death experiences.
Where healthy people near someone who's dying
report having similar experiences.
As if they're sharing the dying person's consciousness.
The video suggests that all these things point to a bigger picture.
Where consciousness might be more than just a product of the brain.
And where death might not be the end.
It's a paradigm shift.
And it's opening up new avenues for research.
Into the nature of consciousness and reality itself.
With new tools and a greater willingness to explore these mysteries.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
So the video is basically saying that while we don't have definitive proof of life after death,
the evidence is starting to pile up.
And science might be catching up with ancient wisdom.
Now let's get practical.
Okay.
The video gives a whole bunch of tips
for integrating these insights into our daily lives.
Starting with 10 minutes of quiet reflection every morning.
Not necessarily meditation.
Just noticing your thoughts.
Becoming more aware of your own mind.
And then paying attention to your dreams.
Even recording them.
To see what messages they might hold.
And noticing coincidences.
That seem to have meaning.
And spending time in nature.
Connecting with the natural world.
Grounding yourself.
Being present with others.
Really listening.
Deepening your connections.
Letting go of the need to control everything.
Embracing uncertainty.
Keeping a record of your experiences.
Especially those moments of connection.
Or unexplained events.
Trusting your gut feelings.
Your intuition.
Creating quiet spaces in your day.
Turning off your phone.
Disconnecting from the constant noise.
Taking time for joy and peace.
Doing things that make you feel good.
Practicing gratitude.
Appreciating what you have.
Being kind
to yourself and others.
It's a simple but powerful message.
And the video says start small.
Pick one or two things.
Don't try to do everything at once.
Manage your expectations.
Awareness takes time to develop.
And share your experiences with others.
Find like-minded people.
But stay grounded in your daily life.
Don't get lost in the clouds.
Keep learning, keep exploring.
And trust your own instincts.
That big elephant in the room.
The video suggests that all this research
into NDEs and consciousness
points to death not being the end.
It's more like a transition.
A continuation of consciousness.
And our true nature goes beyond the physical body.
It's about recognizing that.
And embracing the possibility of something more.
And the video encourages us to live differently.
Knowing that consciousness continues.
It changes your perspective.
On what's truly important.
Material possessions become less significant.
Relationships and personal growth takes center stage.
And studies have shown that people who believe in an afterlife tend to live more fulfilling lives.
So it's not just about what happens after we die.
It's about how we live right now.
We're invited to let go of our limiting beliefs about death.
To examine our fears.
What are we really afraid of?
The unknown.
Sense of control.
Separation from loved ones.
And the video suggests that facing those fears
can help us live more authentically.
Make bolder choices.
And prioritize what truly matters.
If we know that our consciousness is eternal,
it changes how we see everything.
Our time becomes more precious.
Our relationships become more meaningful.
And our life takes on a new purpose.
And the research continues.